so that if I started, pronouncing a Romantic language, that I would butcher it. But so far so good. Thanks to the green owl.
Yeah.
I'm trying.
You
But
speak,
German, like that comes naturally.
you speak Spanish too, right, Andre?
Ya, claro que hablo español. Aquí lo dicen castellano. Pero,
Ah,
but yeah, my Spanish is a bit rusty, but I do speak fairly well.
there's my good friend Craig is joining us. How's it going, Craig?
Hey, Stefan.
Hey, Craig.
How are you? Oh, hey, Andre. Looking forward to hearing you.
Yeah, we're casually getting this started with a couple of good friends. See, I was telling Andre about this the one that I did with Bruno Herman, and I pasted in the wrong link in my invite. And so I always have the guest on 15 minutes early, and we're having a casual conversation. I'm waiting for everybody to flow in.
Yeah.
And now it's like 5 minutes till the event, and I'm starting to get a little nervous because normally you got the first people trickling in, like you guys are trickling in right now.
Yeah.
And nothing's happening, and now it's 57, nothing, 58. Then Marina sends me a message, hey, this link is not working. I'm like, holy crap. So, then we had to scramble. I had to go to the LinkedIn invite. That wouldn't let me replace the link anymore. So then we had to do it with a comment. I mean, it was freaking pandemonium. So
It
now,
still worked out, though. It was
yeah,
still a
yeah,
good
and it
meeting.
was fine. I had 35 people in the room, I think, so it
Yeah,
was
or
fine.
more.
But that first 5 minutes, took a year off my life, I think, because that's. And the other thing that had happened too, that was last year. I had one where there was a thunderstorm going on here, and we lost internet.
Yeah.
Now, thankfully, when you make somebody like a co-host with you, I hadn't realized, since my guest was co-host on the Zoom, even though I lost internet, the LocDiscussion didn't end with that. So, the internet went out. It took me 10, 15 minutes to get back, to get back. Hey, Jen, I see that you're asking to record the session, but I'm already recording it. So I'm going to deny you. You'll forgive me.
Hey, no problem at all.
Right.
I need to tell it to stop automatically trying to record things.
Yeah, yeah. And so, but it's recorded, so we'll have copy. So anyway, the internet goes out, and for 10 minutes I'm running around like a chicken without a head, trying to figure out where when my internet is going to come back up, and it finally comes back up. I think I've lost the whole show, and when I come back on, the meeting's still going on. Everybody's discussing. It's just we didn't miss a beat. Probably people didn't even notice that I was out for the most part. So that was the other story. That was. Hi, Jonas. How's it going, man? You're joining from Washington, right? He's got the sound off, probably. I'm excited to see you because you're a technical whiz. You're gonna be able to put some fire to the feet of Andre. Get ready, Andre.
What are you throwing me
There we
at?
go. Sorry. Because it was recording it, and for some reason it wasn't allowing me to unmute. So
Yeah.
I had it to accept. So anyway,
Good to see
hi
you.
everyone.
Good to see you.
Hey, Jonas.
All right, people are trickling in right now.
Well,
Hi, Eric. How's it going?
Good.
Is it still raining in Southern California?
Nah, it rained for a minute yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, we're suffering.
We had a big thunderstorm here in Texas coming through overnight, right, Pedro?
Yeah.
It's
It's strong.
my grass is coming out like crazy now this week. It's been warm here already, and the grass is coming in like crazy. And now with the rain, probably even more so. So anyway, we'll wait another minute or so, and then we'll get started. Just a couple of housekeeping items while we get this rolling. Most of you have been here before. Don't hesitate to chime in. This is not meant to be a one-man show with me and Andre. I'm going to be asking him a bunch of questions that we've prepared, but if you have a question or something that you're thinking about, feel free to chime in. There you go. Now we have you on the spotlight, Andre. Yeah, please don't raise your hand and wait to chime in, because that's a recipe for disaster. I'm concentrating on keeping the conversation going with Andre, and I'm not paying attention to hands being raised. So if you want, you can put your question in the chat, and then I'll come back to you. That's another way of doing it as well. But let's do it European style. Don't be afraid to speak up if you have a question for either one of us, and just chime in without too much protocol. All right, let's get the show rolling. Andre, looking at my questions. So tell us a little bit who you are and where we can situate you in the localization industry, and also maybe tell us the cool story of how HappyScribe got started in college, because that's something we're fascinated with, I'm sure.
Yeah. So like, to locate me, so like, I'm Andre. I'm gonna be 30 years old in around a month now. I'm currently based in Barcelona, originally French, but grew up a bit all around Europe. I'm one of these like typical like Erasmus students, Erasmus generation. Where can you locate me in the industry? Well, like, I think I'll start by the story, because this has evolved quite a lot and over time. So when I was doing my master in Dublin, Dublin City University, I was looking at social entrepreneurs in Ireland, their motivation and aspirations, and trying to understand why they were doing this. So in order to be able to do that research, I conducted 10, 15 interviews and had to transcribe every single of them. I transcribed the first one by hand, manually, myself. It took me 6 hours, and I was like, I cannot spend 45 hours transcribing all these interviews. And I was in the middle of my master thesis. I had not the willingness, but really not the time to do it. And started to look for a solution online. And one thing another, I'll skip all the details of the story, but we started playing with speech-to-text technology. We saw that it could bring value to the table. And that is when we decided to start this initial project that was HappyScribe, that ended up as the business that it is today. Then we've had like very many different phases of expansion in services and technology over the years. We started with AI transcription. We then added automatic subtitling, later added our human services, and now are trying to go deeper and deeper on the quality aspect of the different services we provide, both on the AI side and on the human side. The way we describe HappyScribe today is really this idea of going full in on the more audiovisual localization part of the industry. So at the same time, being able to help corporates, media companies, but also language service provider that don't necessarily have the audiovisual expertise to help them with our service to serve the needs of their clients. So that's a bit about where we are and where we were at the beginning. And yeah.
So, and I mean, I'm trying to understand kind of what the progress was. How did you go from having an idea while you had this transcription project in college to it's really cumbersome spending so much time on doing the transcription, to I can find a solution for this, and now it's big enough to make a business. It's very interesting because I think there's a lot of people nowadays that will love to have their own business and that are fascinated with that exercise. So when did you realize that, hey, this is something we can make a business out of? Did you have coding experience yourself? Were you making the software? How did that develop?
So for the small story, so I'm more of a generalist with maybe a bit more expertise on design and UX. And my co-founder is much more on the deeper technical part. He has a degree in computer science and machine learning and artificial intelligence, more focused on the computer vision side. And when I had this need, we saw that in the university, people were starting to ask for it. They heard that we were doing subtitles on our side, we had built this little thing that we had on our laptop, and they wanted us to come to their lab and install it. And so instead of like going and showing them how we were doing it, because it was all of it on the terminal, the black screen of the computer, we decided to spend the weekend 48 hours, and I would do the design on the front end and Mark would do the back end. And that's really has been the first part of how we built all of this, but it was all the two of us at the time.
Very, very interesting. And what's maybe a good lesson or advice that you can give to young entrepreneurs that have a dream like you, that are thinking about this is a product that I could create in order to get started?
So like, I think the learning that I give is a learning that I got over time. It's a learning that everyone tells you, but I think no one realizes how important it is. And that works for any type of business, technological one, services. It's focusing and going for a niche. And when you find a niche, to find a niche inside that niche. And starts from there. Be the best at what you want to provide on this, and then expand. I think it's especially true in the language industry. I didn't know nothing about this industry. I learned over the years, and we are now where we are. But when you look at the language industry, you can serve a lot of different use cases. You can serve a lot of different people, a lot of different needs with a lot of different services. And I think that one thing that is key is trying to, when you start, to look small before you look big, and being able to go segment after segment and not try to serve everything at once.
Very interesting. And certainly there's been lots of developments in speech technology in the last maybe 5-10 years, I would think, because I already heard you say the word du jour or of the year, AI. I'm sure that connection is there now, but that's not something that you started out with, right? With AI or...
No. At the beginning, Episcribe was, we were relying on external providers. So we were basically benchmarking, and we still do it to keep us informed, benchmarking the different speech-to-text recognition models that were out there, and providing the best one to our customers. I think it's only for like the last 3 years that we started developing our own models, and yeah.
So you're not leveraging, OpenAI's ChatGPT or some other large language model. You're actually using your own.
So in terms of like, so when we started doing speech to text, there was no large language model. We had one model per language, a bit more of the traditional way of building speech to text recognition models. And then we switched and we started using as a foundational model Whisper around 2 years ago. And so like Whisper, which is like still a speech recognition engine, but that is based on the same, to vulgarize, and I'm not an expert, the AI team probably give a much better answer than me at this, that is based on the same foundation than a ChatGPT model.
That's a good point.
With a speech to text part. And so like that's where like you get something that are much more interesting, because you don't only get the speech to text recognition, but you get the context that a large language model can have. And so the quality, the transcription improved.
Very interesting. What are the challenges you're facing with the new speech recognition algorithms, you would say?
With the new ones, well, I think it's always the sort of the same challenges. Data is core to developing these models, and qualitative data. When you were looking at the initial release of Whisper, a lot of people were like showcasing that it was having a lot of hallucination, and this was based on the fact that it was not trained with it was trained with a lot of data, but not exclusively high quality data. And so what we try to do at HappyScribe is that because our service is being used by hundreds of thousands of people around the world, we can feed our engines with extremely highly qualitative data. And we don't compromise on this. For us, that's the thing that is the most important above everything else, speed and so on. And so the key challenge is how do you develop these data sets so you can continue to improve the quality of your models. Another challenge that I'd like to highlight is the diarization, so like the speaker recognition part. So how do you recognize the voice, different voices on a conversation? And this is sounds like an easy challenge compared to everything that AI models can do today, but it's actually something that is still very challenging and that no one has really cracked. I think right now, for example, our models are getting to like a 75, 80% accuracy. But we might have something coming up pretty soon, reaching a 95% accuracy level. But it's a very hard challenge and took us like quite a bit of time.
Yeah, for somebody who hasn't really used your software, can you maybe explain a little bit, you know, how it works from the ground up, and then talk about some of the bells and whistles so we can get a better idea how it actually works in practice?
Yeah. So like HappyScribe is an online platform that provides audiovisual localization services. So we have transcription, subtitles, and subtitles in foreign languages. These three services are provided in two different ways. The first one is full AI. And so you would upload your file on the platform, and once the file is ready, within a few minutes, you'll get access to all the text editing tools to be able to proofread either the transcription or the subtitles, including like the management of the time codes, of the character per line for the subtitles, and all the technical parameters that you will need to create the highest quality of subtitles. When you go, and then like all these services are also available with a human offering, so like with expert in the loop that will join the platform and proofread this AI version on your behalf. So like, and there we're like doing full post editing on both the transcription, the subtitled and the subtitle and the translation of the subtitles. And these services are currently provided within 35 languages.
And the people that are doing the post editing, those are linguists, translators.
Yeah.
And they work freelance with you?
Yeah, they all work freelance.
Okay. So if we have some translators in the audience that are interested in doing work for HappyScribe, they could go to your platform and sign up there, or how does that work?
They can send an email directly to Boris at happyscribe.com. Is the person in charge of sourcing linguists for us.
Okay. And then the way, how does the sourcing really work? Is that an automated sourcing that you have set up in the system, or
Yeah, so that's interesting. Not anymore.
okay.
Right now, we used to have like an automated sourcing. The problem with automated sourcing is the quality of the profile, and the incapacity of like scaling the system. We started to receive, like every time we would publish a test, the test will end up on YouTube. this so we would get like people with very high score on the test that in the end were not performing well. And so right now we're like stepping back a bit and trying to understand, we're going to the root of sourcing linguists. So we have our test that we send, but offline and depending on the languages. And we're trying to understand a bit more how we can maybe re-automate it, or at least like we have like a more automated process in the near future.
Yeah. So how does machine learning enhance the quality and the efficiency of the transcription and subtitling services?
The machine learning aspect.
Mhm. Do you do your own machine learning? You're training your own models?
Yeah. So like all our models are based on machine learning, but for now a very long time.
Yeah.
I think that maybe like one of the most recent advancements that I could mention, because in the end all these models are helped by machine learning, but one of the most recent advancements looking at language services we provide, which is not just the speech to text part, is more on the subtitling aspect. We've not only we have the speech to text part on one side, but when you make subtitles, you have an aesthetic part to take into consideration. You have an artistic part to take into consideration. You have some rules, some guidelines that are pretty strict and that you need to respect, and also adapt in some events when you cannot fit by the rule what you need to do. And so like we've spent the last 6 months developing this new AI model, well, this new model that is based on 3 different AI models based on natural language processing to really understand the structure of the sentence, what words needs to be together. And then also we gathered like a database of millions of subtitles to be able to compare and always being able to provide the best solution to the user in an automated way. And so far we're seeing that this, for example, like in that use case, we're able to reduce by 20% the amount of time that was spent by our linguists when editing the time coding of the subtitles. And so this is available by default to all our users.
Yeah. You know, the thing that fascinates me with a story like yours is that so often I interact with translators or linguists that are very, very nervous about the future of localization and what they're going to be doing tomorrow. And once again, you're providing an example of how, yes, there will be lots of change, but I think there's lots of content that is being localized currently that wasn't localized in the past because there wasn't either budget or there were time constraints in getting the work done. And you're actually creating, it seems like to me, a new market in which linguists are going to be provided the opportunity to make a contribution. Yes, their job is going to change, but there's a new opportunity to be involved with translation work or transcription in this case in different languages that didn't exist in the past. Would you agree with my assessment?
I completely agree. I would add a few points. Just going back, like I think the technology company historically have not done a great job at trying to fit in the industry they were entering. And one big realization for me more as an entrepreneur than as a CEO of Apiscribe was that for maybe the first 3 years of Apiscribe, I was considering Apiscribe as a technology company.
Yeah.
And I think around 3-4 years ago, I started questioning this, and I was like, actually, no, we're a language company powered by technology, and therefore we need to evolve with it. We don't sell to technology company. We don't work with technology company. We work and sell to language company, to media companies, and this is the industry we're evolving in. And I think a lot of time, technology company that works in the language industry, it's not really well set where they stand. And then regarding the linguist, I think we've seen this before with machine translation. The amount of jobs that were created, the volumes of work, AI in the end, in no way will replace linguist, but especially in the subtitling and transcription part. You know, we were doing a project that was very interesting because the quality and what I would say is like the perception of automatic quality is a perception and depends on a lot of different factors. And we had this client that would use automatic transcription on our automated tests. We could see that the accuracy was 99%. You know, this 99% that you see advertised everywhere when you speak about speech-to-text recognition. Well, it appears that this specific client, yes, 99% of the words were correct, but every single technical terms that mattered to him were wrong. And so his perception of the transcription was more of a 50%. In terms of quality. And I think that when we look at quality, we should not only look at the metric, but as well as like what perception the end user is having of what we're providing. And I think something very important here. So yeah,
that's very interesting. And his perception was 50% of satisfaction. What were some of the things that the transcription was missing that you think humans needed to be in the loop for then?
I think it's the expertise, for sure. So like having an expertise on a specific domain. The linguist, I think what will be really important is like getting very familiar with like these new technologies and being able to constantly learn about this new way of working, because things will change and things are changing, and if you don't actively work on building this learning curve and an appetite for growth, that's when you might be left behind.
Yeah.
Aside of this, the industry is going to boom. The demand is going to boom. If you look just at audiovisual, I think if you were looking at the reports last year, it was like one of the fastest growing vertical of the entire language industry.
Yeah.
And so I don't think there is any worry to have. The worry, like, I think, is misplaced. It shouldn't be on like risking to losing my job, but it's losing risk. It should be on like, am I learning enough to be tomorrow? And that's a different thing.
Yeah, I think I mean, there is no doubt that things are changing and workflows are adjusting, and the role that the linguist is going to be playing might be different than what they're doing right now. But it's not because certain jobs are indeed disappearing because AI is taking over certain aspects of the workflow, that there's not, on the other end, the kind of thing happening that you're describing, which is new opportunities for linguists to get involved in a way that they weren't in the past. Certainly. I mean, how old is Appy Scribe?
We're close to 7 years.
7 years. So, you know, that tells you right there. Before 7 years ago, there probably was not even a segment that dealt with the type of localization that you're doing, or it was a lot more cumbersome at the very least, right?
Yeah, completely.
So, go ahead. Somebody.
I just I don't think we're gonna have enough time because I have so many questions. There's a lot of things that I agree and I disagree. But it's kind of interesting to see from a linguist perspective. We have always been involved in this, and this is speech to technology in AVT. It's new, but it has been for a while. We've been working on this for a long time because, you know, Microsoft and other ones that speech to writing, and especially, but I have like so many questions for you because you brought some really interesting issues.
Jonas, since Andre probably does not know who you are, I want to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You know, maybe you can tell him real quick how you fit in, because he'll understand right away why you can speak with authority on this particular subject.
I'm not authority. I'm just no, don't put me up. I'm a linguist, translator, and educator. I teach at the Bellevue College here in the US. And I do also translations for AVT, right? So dubbing and you probably know or heard of George Diaz. He's the main authority in audiovisual translation. He teaches at, I think now he's in Imperial College in London, but he's the authority in the European market in audiovisual, his publications. But anyhow, and it's funny because you're talking about a lot of technology. I just gave a presentation at the Carlo Bolo University in Rome, and it was in audiovisual localization and just localization. So some of the questions that I have, it is changing, and I see the same thing happening with the fear, right, with technology. All the translators or linguists, not so, I wouldn't say so much the linguists, because linguists have been involved with this for a long time. They adapt, especially if they've done computational linguistics, or even as a normal, like I'm trained as a traditional linguist. I'm kind of double your age. So, and I was sort of a Erasmus student. I was in Europe for a while. But one of the things that I like, you said so many things about your software. And of course, I'd love to test it because I have this quarter I'm teaching technology at college. So, and I teach a segment on translation for audiovisual, especially for subtitling. Would be great to kind of test it out, but
I'm gonna connect you two guys. I bet you, Andre.
Yeah, because I'm always testing new tools and asking the students to test it out and see what, but apparently one of the questions about the tool was that you said if you put the transcript there, you have your people. Is that a way for the students or someone who is testing the software to do the post editing and not have your team, since it's a free version? Okay.
Yeah.
And how do you, in the computational part, how do you, because I've tried some other ones in some other languages, and especially they have a hard time with the accents. Now the idiomatic. Have you guys come up with a solution to get like 100% accuracy? If if I'm doing speech to text, especially the speech to text we use for like circling, right? When it's live.
For me, 100% accuracy or 99 or even 80 is a myth.
Right, you're never going to get it.
You're going to get it on very specific files with very specific accents and a very specific group of people. One of the big limits of these models and today are the accents and the inclusion of these models. We did a test 2 years ago because right now these models are based on the data sets that we have that is based on the usage. So we don't really have a control on it. What we could see is that when you benchmark the models and pretty much everything you have in the industry today with, male are being recognized better than female today on speech-to-text recognition engine. People from diversity background are as well not as well recognized, and so on. And so that will be a challenge. One way that you could start fixing it is trying to label better the data that you're receiving. So we already starting to do some jobs. So like all our linguists, they, once they're done with the job, they are asked some questions about the quality of the AI. And if you have people from different backgrounds, you can try to push a bit more this data. So the models take it a bit more into consideration than the rest, and give it a bit more of importance. But so far, it's one of the biggest different accents and anything is one of the biggest challenge I think of these AI technologies that are being developed.
Okay. Do you use the AI tool? For instance, I use sometimes Dragon, right?
Yeah.
Natural speech, okay? And it's funny because you have to basically all the machines for transcription, you have to train them with your voice because otherwise they can't, and it's still not 100% because sometimes you know, if you have a cold or anything that changes your tone of voice, it won't catch up. How do you deal with that, or do you envision kind of a solution for that in the future?
It's very different. So like you don't need to train on your own voice with speech to text engine like Happyscribe. Give it a go. It's a different way of working. It works in many conditions. You can be on the phone. You can be talking to someone that has never been recorded before. Usually the quality is pretty great.
So I have my whole house rigged with Amazon, and I'm telling it to turn the lights off and what have you. And whenever I talk to Alexa, it goes so well with me, and my wife always gets stuck. I can't talk too loud because she'll walk in the room here if she hears me tell the story. But so often she'll say, you know, hey, Alexa, do this. And it doesn't work because she doesn't leave enough space in between the call to activate and the instruction. And then I repeat it and it works right away for me. So I think that's particularly, are there idiosyncrasies like that with a transcription software too, or is that just limited to the
So-
Alexa thing? She's
No,
lighting up for me right now, actually, while I'm saying it.
No, you still have like some words that wouldn't be understood well, but like so Happyscribe, unlike like different other technology providers, we put like a very strong focus on quality. So we often prefer not transcribing something rather than transcribing something that is of poor quality. Same thing, for example, when you look at for voice assistant, for example, you did the speech to text recognition that is extremely fast because you need to be able to process the information at light of speed. For us, in the case of audiovisual localization, we prefer like we don't care about the speed. The speed is secondary to us when it comes to making a transcript, making a subtitle. What matters the most for us is the quality. So we actually like push the model to take its time, of course, to some extent, but we prioritize the quality over the speed. And so like when you prioritize the speed, you lose in quality. And when you prioritize quality, you lose in speed. And you have to like, depending on the use case, different models will focus on different outputs.
And when the software doesn't keep track of the speed, or let me rephrase that, if the software loses some words with the speed or in understanding, does it display to the user that it's missed some words, or how does that work? Because you said you prefer not to transcribe at that point, but you still have to kind of indicate to the user.
So we don't transcribe if the quality is very low. It's really like if we're 100% sure that this word is going to be the wrong word. And so in that case, the transcript, the users, they have access to this, and I'll invite you all to like have a look at it, but it's this platform that it makes it extremely easy and pleasant to go through a subtitling file, to go through transcription, and where you can edit them. So you can listen, read the text at the same time, and some words might be highlighted in red if they're not of a great accuracy. And so you can go and change them. Yeah.
Because one of the things that I find with the other ones, of course, especially when you're training the machine for transcribed, you cannot do a natural speech. You have to dictate more like a, robotic sort of thing, so it will catch. Because if I'm speaking, a natural speech, So, and this is what stuff I think happens on mine, at least. It shows a word completely. It's not what I said.
Right.
So it writes something, and this is when you have to do the post editing. It's like, well, no. And so because you have the opportunity that you're talking and you're seeing being written down, right? So if you see the mistake right away, you catch, and it's like, no, you have the manual things to go back and say, no, I'm saying this. And sometimes I have to say it 5 times, and then it will still won't pick it up. And then you have the opportunity just to type it and continue, but you have to slow. It's not like a natural speech. Now you're saying with you, Andre, it's kind of, you're not focusing that, because if someone is doing a natural dictation or a natural speech, how do you deal that?
So like errors, like we take natural speech. You don't dictate. You cannot say like, Andre, stop speaking, comma, but you will have something much more natural. One thing that I'd like maybe to mention, because on an interesting point, is like more what we do to like improve the quality on top of a speech to text recognition model. We're like currently implementing some different piece of product inside the software, including a consistency checker. So like being able across multiple files to know, well, this time you've proofread Mark with a C, and the AI wrote Mark with a K. And so this model can go through like all the files that you have with some natural language processing and say, and like automatically like highlight to you and say like, I've detected that in previous files on the same project, you've transcribed file, you've proofread this to Mark, like, do you want to correct? We're also implementing quite a bit of video intelligence to the engine. So being able to capture the text that is on the video to feed the engine and being able to tell to the engine, listen, this is the way you need to transcribe that specific word. So when you have technical terms, that will be fed to the engine before even the transcription process starts. And much more things. But the idea is really to try to not only improve the speech-to-text recognition model, but as well build the technology and the tools that will then help our users or linguists to be more efficient in the way they post-edit this transcript or the subtitles.
Very, very.
As for me, I love it, and again, that comes to that thing, because I'm used to, I love post-editing since machine translation came, because as a linguist, it's kind of cool to see it, but I have a lot of fellow translators, professional translators, that they hate post-editing. They rather do from the original because they say it's much faster. I don't think so, because again, I can have the machine, the AI do it, and then just go over. And it's true that if you don't have a niche or the specific terminology for that area, the meaning changes, because a lot of people don't take into consideration semantics, right? And that's one of the things that lacks, that we're always going to be there as humans, because the machine is not going to be able to get that pragmatics and the context and the nuances that a human brain can do it. But one thing that you said, when you're doing the natural speech, how do they take into account the punctuation?
So the punctuation.
If you're not dictating, if you're not saying, Andrea, please do this, comma, blah blah blah,
by your intonation.
Or just by the intonation. But sometimes it can be, so since that you're using intonation, how do you modify to the different patterns of speech within one language in other languages, because that intonation changes?
So like this is all the purpose of machine learning. So like it's being fed with data on every single language. So like the models are learning when usually linguists will add a comma or a full stop or the specific punctuation based on the data that it was trained with. So like usually you get pretty accurate results. Of course, it's not the level of punctuation that you'll get with a linguist, but you get something that is pretty decent in most languages today with punctuation.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because then it helped. Oops. Yeah, I'm not. So then I thought it was mute. Because yeah, then it allows the linguist or whoever is doing the post editing to go over and do the editing. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
How you deal with privacy, and because if it goes up, we have a huge issue with that. Everything that's on cloud, because some clients have very sensitive. For instance, I do a lot of work with Microsoft, Amazon, that stuff, and I have to sign something that everything that I work from home with my computer has to be 100% bulletproof, so it doesn't leak out to the market. How do you guys deal with that?
So we have like one engineer in the house that like constantly like check our security. We have like of course like on top of everything that you can do from a security point of view, our scribes have like we try to verify as much as we can where they work from. We control their access. You have like a lot of like two-factor authentication, and now we're like in the process of to kind of certify a bit all these procedures to get SOC 1, SOC 2 certification. So that guarantees as well to our customer and that we do our best and we do everything that is in our power to keep data as safe as possible. We're conscious that like a lot of people use the platform, and that's a very big responsibility we have. Now, that being said, I think usually data is more safe on a cloud platform than it will be going over emails between different people and back and forth. So like that's something that is super important for sure.
Because one of the concerns that we have is that, especially because using AI and they're learning from all the data, how you collect the data. So if I put some there that I'm using with a client, which is sensitive, is how can someone be guaranteed that that information, that text is not going to be used as a data to create a better quality, and how long does it stay there? Because they should be destroyed or something, because like for me, after I'm done with the assignment, I destroy everything, right, to make sure that nothing. So do you have a procedure for that as well, and how does that work?
Customers have the option to opt out for training. Then the data stays as long as you leave it on the platform. But the day you start deleting your files on the platform, then everything gets removed completely to the last ID of the file, and we don't keep anything.
As you said, some people send, and then you have your own linguists that do post edit, which is outsourced to the country. How do you maintain the security and the?
So like the linguist can only access the files, but they don't have access to the file. They can only access the platform, but they cannot download the file. They cannot copy the text. There is quite a few implementation that are in place to make sure that like what's from our customer, like the linguists have a license to work on it, but this is something that is temporal. And there is like quite a few like steps that we took in place to make sure that these are respected and working properly.
From a QA point of view, is there a final automated AI QA when linguists are involved? That's kind of an interesting thought that just ran through my head, because I've seen a lot of, in the research that I've done in the last year and some of the panels that I've been on, there's been lots of talk about automated QA procedures and self-healing tools and that kind of thing. And I was just wondering, you know, if the first pass is AI and now you're doing a second pass with linguists, is there a third pass, for example, with AI where it will flag inconsistencies or discrepancies or, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so like there is a third step as well in some cases with another linguist for QA. Then in terms of AI, we have like the tools that I was telling you before. So we will have like consistency checker, spell checker. There will be like quite a few tools that they will have. We don't actually like at the moment use AI on the platform. We've been doing some tests, so like being able to give our guidelines and asking the AI to like help us spot potential issues. And so like if you see that you have a score that is pretty bad, you can maybe like send it automatically for a reviewing process.
And
there is
the score is like an automated score, am I correct? Or how do you get to the score?
like an estimation. That would be an estimation. So we've tried something. There is nothing that we've implemented yet, but that's definitely something that we would be looking at in the future.
Yeah, it's very, how do you decide what languages you're gonna cover? I think you said you covered 35. How did they come to be?
So like we have had like quite a few customers that were like at the beginning, we were just providing French, English, Spanish. And we started having quite a bit of few customers that were in need of like much more global service. And so little by little, we added these languages. That has been quite organic until the day.
Which ones would surprise us? Like what languages you do that would be a surprise to us, you think?
I don't think anyone would be surprised because we don't do a lot of niche languages. We focus on the main ones. And maybe then we have like in Spain we do a bit of like more regional languages, but that are like not as big, but that are still like quite interesting for us.
You do Catalan, for example, or not?
Like Catalan, Basque, etc.
Do you do the Portuguese?
Yeah.
Both?
Yeah.
Brazilian and European? And when you're doing French, you also do French Canadian? Or you just, so you do all the French? So Belgium, Swiss?
Yeah, in terms of yeah, right now we accept all the French projects. Most of the work we have are more like France is actually like or one of our is our second biggest market today. And so that's most of the requests we receive. We get a bit of French Canadian, but not that much. The rest is very marginal.
For the Brazilian Portuguese, do you get a lot compared to the European, or? Because it's a very emerging market. It's a huge market right now for localization. Because I do Brazilian Portuguese and then French to English.
I don't have the number in.
Oh, I see.
What?
And do you separate the Latin America Spanish also, or you just do it like an international Spanish?
No,
standard. You specialize in some of the languages.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested in this particular thing because of my Belgian background, growing up in Flanders. There's in Europe, I feel there's a distinction in language skills between the countries that have subtitling and the countries that have dubbing, particularly on TV. And the reason I'm so convinced of that is because not only can you tell whether countries have subtitling or dubbing by looking or seeing the language skills, it's perfectly logical. If I look at my own case scenario, I grew up with Tom and Jerry with subtitles, not being dubbed, because that's the way it is in Flanders and in Holland and in Scandinavian countries. And in countries like France, that stuff was all dubbed, and there's a direct correlation in my mind with the level of language exposure, and thus the capacity of people to speak the language, because they're a lot less exposed to it from a young age. And in Belgium, kids that are going to grade school typically already have some kind of foundational knowledge of English and French because of their exposure on TV. Talking about the Flemish side of Belgium and the French side of Belgium, it's exactly like in France, they're doing the dubbing as well. So I'm kind of interested in finding out from you whether you see a tendency in countries in Europe in particular that are exposed to dubbing versus subtitling, that they're not that interested in transcription, and that you have more interesting countries that are used to the subtitling. That's a real weird wrinkle of a question, but it's just something that I'm interested in because of my background.
I
And
think,
then I'll toss something there.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a very big topic, because I think that you could cover like so many different things. The first thing is that I think, yeah, the countries where you have dubbing are like the countries with the larger languages.
Yeah,
When
of course.
I speak here with all my colleagues that are from Catalonia, they were watching pretty much everything with subtitles.
Yeah.
But I grew up in a world where everything was dubbed. Now, what's interesting is that the usage of subtitling is evolving, and it's not anymore just a way of accessing a content that you cannot understand, but it's also like a way to proactively engage with the content, which was not really the case if you look back 10 years ago.
Yeah.
There was this research that I could find and share, which was like looking at the teenagers in the UK, where there was like, when we were saying like subtitles are going to disappear, people are going to stop using them. And in the end, what happens is that the English subtitles are rising, and the use on even like entertainment is growing more and more, just because it's a way of like engaging and staying much more focused. And so there was this comparison as well of like, if you want to be in a position where you relax and you're let down, you will be more tempted to go for the dubbed version. But if it's something where you want to really engage with and learn from, you would go more for the subtitle.
I never go for the dub version. I just can't bring myself to do it. And my wife always complains when we're watching some kind of a Norwegian Netflix series, and I'd rather be reading the subtitles than listening to it in English. And we have that debate all the time.
And then you have like, what's super interesting is that, as the production of content is getting completely globalized, and we probably watched the same show this week on Netflix. And I don't know if you saw, but Netflix had 2 production in the last years that were like multilingual.
Yeah.
Sense8 and 1899, I think.
1899, I saw that one.
Yeah.
It had
Yep.
7 or 8 languages. Actually, there a post about it on LinkedIn at some point. You can go look it up. Because there were so many languages involved. And there too, that was with subtitles in my household. I can't do that with, because you
Yeah.
lose half of the context in that particular series, because a lot of the dialogue is in the different languages.
Yeah, but that will be super interesting to see as well, like how this is going to impact the future of subtitles. Like something I'm very curious, and I'd like to spend more time on as well on researching, is like, what are subtitles going to look like in 5-10 years? Are we going to stay on the same model, or are we going to for what type of content are we going to serve, and how are they going to evolve? And I think there is like, I don't have answers. I have just only questions for now, but I think there is like a very interesting field on this as well.
You know, at some point I had a post about this particular issue, and also about it when you're doing subtitling. Invariably, there's going to be things that you lose. There's a French series in which at some point the characters switch from vous voyez to tutoyer. They're going in the casual form. So the lady is addressing an older person all of a sudden with tu, and it sends a certain message in French that you would only get if you understand the language, because you can't really translate it in a subtitle. And I was kind of thinking about how, for people that are, maybe I'm just off my rocker, but for people like us that are interested in linguistically and always looking for those kind of things, it'd be interesting if you could have a context button in your Netflix series where you could actually, get some extra information about a particular scene or something like that, like I described, So anyway.
But this is interesting. But just before that, we need to understand that there's two types of subtitles, right? We're talking about subtitles and then closed caption.
Closed captioning.
I don't think closed caption is going to change. In Brazil, and also the medium, right? So if it was in Brazil, when I was living there, I lived there for 18 years when I was a kid, on the TV, it was all dubbed. But if you go to the movies, then it's subtitles for all the movies. Now, with Netflix, and they're the masters of localization for AVI, right? They're the leading that. What I've been seeing, it has to do with some series if they're a hit, you can see that they have spent a lot of money doing both dubbing and creating the subtitles for both, and also putting closed captions, right? So the things that I see that, especially because there's this trend on language learning, I use Netflix to teach foreign languages because I can change, if they are practicing listening comprehension, they can, like, if it's in French, they can put the closed caption in French and see exactly what it's being said, and it's written because it's verbatim. If it's a subtitle, then it's a translation, it's an adaptation because you have the constraints of the characters, the lines, and all the things that comes with creating the subtitles, right? So for the future, I see that it will continue, but probably the closed captions. And I think the tutorial, the things that the formal, it depends again who is working. I think a lot of the outsourcing for translators doing subtitles, sometimes they don't have that mind that localization specialists have to catch that and incorporate, because you can incorporate that and show the situation where an older person is talking to a younger person and using the tu and then going back as a vous, if that language has that same register, right? In English, it would be impossible.
It kind of falls in between. I can't believe we've filled an hour like just like that.
You need to make it longer.
Yeah, I know, but I feel funny making it a lot longer because I know people are very generous with their time and
They can always leave.
I know, but we don't want to be sitting in the room with two people at the very end as well. Andre, I want to give you a parting question if you indulge us with another couple of minutes. So
Yeah.
I would love to get your perspective in how you see the business model for the language industry changing. What are some of your predictions for the changes coming up in the next 5 years in localization?
I think that, so like in terms of business model, for me, it's all going to be about the use of technology. I don't think business models are going to change massively. I think that probably you're gonna have a change that maybe we don't talk enough about it, because the use of AI means that sometimes linguists might spend less time and actually do more content. Or does that get taken into account as we grow on the business model of companies that are using AI to speed up the post-dating? I think that ultimately the industry will move towards that direction. And I'm wondering on how like, and I think this is when probably like you will see different agencies, the ones that really are embracing AI, being able to reduce cost and then accept more content from the different production, and the ones that will not make the evolution and will need to keep up and stay with their old cost structure. And I think that there might be a breaking point there.
Yeah.
And like
Things are definitely changing. I want to thank you so very much for a fascinating hour. I really enjoyed our conversation. We probably didn't get to half of the questions that we prepared, but that's kind of a normal thing at LocDiscussion as well. I hope you've enjoyed, or the audience has enjoyed it as well. Jonas, thank you for co-hosting this episode of LocDiscussion with me. I can always count on you to keep it interesting.
I just sent Andrea my email. I said I would like to contact because I have so many
Perfect.
questions and things to kind of
Awesome.
it's fascinating. I really appreciate Andrea being here, and it's
was very nice.
and of course Stefan is always putting some great meetings and hosts. So
All
I
right.
appreciate.
Well, thank you
so
very much. Thank you very much, everybody, and see you next month. I'm
So
on my
fun.
way to Peru to Vamos Juntos next week, so you'll be seeing some reports
Nice.
from me from there.
It's,
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Andre, I
Have a
sent
very
you
nice seeing you.
I sent you a thing on LinkedIn as well. I'd love to chat sometime.
Awesome.
Okay, let's do.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks.
All right,
Bye-bye.
later, Stefan. Bye, Joe.